Welcome, guys, to episode 13 of the weekly. And with the finger snap, all of you have appeared. That was kind of like Infinity War. Get it? Never mind. Anyway, with me.
Well, it's sort of the opposite of Infinity War. Right?
Hey, I'm not trying to kill all of you, okay? I said,
no, that's what I mean. I'm happy that it's not actually like Infinity War.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, with me, of course, is my usual co-host, Mr. Juan Bagnell, who thinks he understands comic books well, but he doesn't. How you doing, bro?
Wow, that was loaded. I feel like you need to sit down for another one of my why the Flash is the most influential comic book characters in history diatribes, but we'll save that for another.
Oh no, but he is though. I agree with that one.
Okay, let's stop this craziness now.
I know Sam running in to mediate. That's good.
And there, of course, is Sam, aka Black Iron _man, without a robo voice today.
Woo woo!
Yeah, that's so nice. It's so nice.
Hurry up and say as much as you can before it goes away.
Thank you, Google. Thank you, Google. Thank you, Google. Thank you, Google. Thank you, Google.
And finally, the one and only Mr. Warren Bowman, coming from the high-flying wheels of BW1.com.
High-flying wheels?
Dude, just go with it, okay? That escapes of mine.
Why are there wheels flying? There's so much wrong scientifically with everything you just said.
Wow.
I'm trying
to give somebody an intro.
Don't you have a bachelor's in science?
I will stone you from here.
The whole theme of this week's show is just throwing shade, guys.
I know.
Damn.
Watch everyone throw shade at E.
Did the NBA get in the way? Is that the problem?
Who knows? Let's kick it off with a couple of news items, and one that I consider partially uselessness. But Google is trying to fix its messenger services yet again. And this time, they said, no new app. We are going to improve the messenger texting app with RCS, so you can do all this rich messaging services. It will be similar to how you use Facebook. They did mention Facebook and iMessenger in their video, but they also mentioned that it is not encrypted like the others. So thoughts, guys, as at least Google decides to use one of its current messaging platforms and not create a seventh one or an eighth.
Oh, who knows so many at this point. I'm actually writing an article about this whole thing because it's kind of ridiculous because Google is essentially what Google's messaging is what Windows Phone is to mobile OSs. Whole lot of potential, keeps restarting, keeps retrying, and eventually they just sat there and failed and compromised with the competition. And that's what they're doing essentially with this chat RCS feature, which basically relies on carriers, which is always a fail when you got to rely on other carriers to turn things on and make these features work to make texting better, which I get. But the reality is that the only thing that that's making this better for is businesses to send different communications down the line. If they want to send a ticket or some type of special text that requires data or something more advanced with it and have a better presentation, they'll be able to do that over an RCS service better, probably pay a lot less than they would have and then use something like Facebook spots or what's the other one? iMessages bots and all the other stuff like that. And the interesting thing is that the only people that are calling this an actual problem, because it's been called a messaging mess, the only people that have the problem with this are the iPhone people, because they complain that they get green bubbles in their little text messaging boxes, because they're the only ones that whine about that whole thing. Everybody else that's on the Android platform, essentially, if they either use text or they use something else like Facebook Messenger or WhatsApp or something like that, and they've been perfectly fine going around and doing that. The only people that have been sort of complaining about an Android about having a universal messaging service has been people like us complaining about that, which they had and which was Hangouts, and they decided to just deviate completely away from that. So it's their own fault, essentially, for going away from where everybody was. Their entire base was over in Hangouts and said, this is what we want to use. They decided, no, we got to make some different app. We got to do all this other different stuff. And people just said, no, we want to use this. They made 10 different messaging applications and messaging apps and messenger apps and all this other stuff, and just gunked it up so much that now no one uses anything else. They completely abandoned Hangouts, decided to make that some type of Slack competitor, which is dumb in its own space for them even trying to do that. And now we're here, them basically saying, well, we failed, but we'll try to get all the carriers on board to start RCS, which you already started before. This isn't new. They started this with Sprint. So this whole them trying to push RCS thing,
RCS for at least the last 5 years,
and it's still dead in the water because nobody wants to use it. None of the carriers want to turn it on. It's the only way they're going to be able to even get it on there is because they agreed. Samsung agreed to put it in their messaging app, and then they're going to put an Android messaging app, which is the basic messaging app in stock Android, which is mostly everyone uses. So they're sort of shoehorning this force in, and the carriers are lightly sort of agreeing and said, okay, we can do that. Most likely because it's a way for them to sell to businesses to push rich messages out for whatever they want to sell, whatever service they want to use with it. So to me, like, I know I'm going all around the world with this, but to me, it's just like one of those complaints that's an issue that's a non-issue, but at the end of the day, Google just looks stupid. And it's their own fault. And no one's going to care about this. This will get turned on and no one will care about it.
Okay. Anybody else? Sam?
No, I think Warren did an amazing job of summing up how we're all feeling. I think this situation has this one pro and con to it where I'm happy that they're just improving a product and I'm happy that they're not launching a new product. But at the same time, they're doing an amazing job of training smartphone users to not trust them. So from the early days of Hangouts, when I worked to try and get my family to use a unified messaging platform for video calling and for instant message and text message style conversation, Google devalued what I invested my time and effort in to try and get them to use. So now at least we're not having to play that game. Like, because I think we're all of us, we bounced on Allo and Duo. Like, I don't know. Did you guys put any effort into trying to get people to use it?
I sent 2 messages and both of them were to E. This is useless. This is stupid. And that was the end of it. Literally, that's the only conversation we had on that.
I sent 2 messages between 2 accounts of my own. That was all I did to test Allo. And I did one video call, again, between 2 accounts.
I use it for video calls, called my mom and called my cousin with Duo. It was quite effective. And then they improved video calls on WhatsApp. And then that was just the end.
Yeah.
Well, they had this with Hangouts. They had this exact thing there. And they could have just built on top of that. The name was already out there because it was an upgrade of Google Talk. It was an upgraded version of what Google Talk was. Everyone was already using it. Everybody was already using it in their Gmail. They were perfectly comfortable with communicating through there. So it was already a desktop client available within their own product as Gmail. And then they also, and people also had it already automatically built into their phones. iOS users had to download whatever the case may be, but it was already there. And then they decided, oh, well, we're just going to go and try to make our own iMessage. You know, the funny thing is, here's the funny thing about iMessage, because it's going to fail too. What was the company that did this same thing before them and failed miserably with it when they tried to implement it on other platform because they waited too long?
BBM.
Ding. BBM was the first version of this.
Yeah, but the difference is that iMessage won't fail because they will just keep it on their platform.
Well, that's the reason they're going to fail, because it's on a single platform.
Users eventually either at WhatsApp or Facebook or Telegram or whoever is going to be the next niche where everybody gets in group messages. You can be that iPhone person that says you want to stick an iMessage, but eventually your friends might want to move over to something else. And if the group chat's over there, they're just going to go over there. And especially when it's ubiquitous and not tied to a single phone or a phone number.
I do hear that. I just think it's just hard. iPhone users are terrible.
I think
it's hard because half of them probably don't. Half of them wouldn't even know they're using iMessage unless there was different color bubbles in the stupid text messaging app.
Yeah, they wouldn't know. They wouldn't know, but they do. I'm just saying that it's just.
But they're the only ones complaining. The rest of us Android users, no, they're not complaining.
Yeah, but I think that's the problem with Google's approach and Apple's approach. I think at the end of the day that it's inevitable that these companies will end up failing because people want apps that function across devices. So that's why a lot of people use WhatsApp, because WhatsApp doesn't matter if you're Android, doesn't matter if you're iOS, it's going to work, and you're going to be able to talk to who you want to talk to.
Too.
Yeah, so it's It's just the way it needs to be. It doesn't. It needs to be freed from just a singular OS, and that's the problem.
I do agree. Let's move away from this rubbish. Let's go to the next question. Tom. Unless you want to add anything, Juan.
Oh no, I mean, I think we're all on the same mind here. It's one step forward. I want to give Google credit. That is one step forward. Look, you're improving a product instead of just abandoning it. Kudos, Google. But it's like 5 steps back in terms of the overall consumer.
Well, it'll get abandoned again when whatever messaging platform that uses data everyone decides.
I don't think so. I still do think, like, to your point, Warren, this is what sucks, is that we've got the hope of potential. This is what always burns us, from the Microsoft days. Now Google is starting to fall into the same traps that Microsoft did. There's a ton of potential, and we can see an endpoint where they tie together services in a way that would be really compelling for consumers. It's just lately I've had zero faith that they can actually get to that point of executing and actually delivering for consumers in a way that would be a meaningful improvement over what we've used in the past. But when we look at Wi-Fi calling coming to Google Voice, we look at upgrades to Project Fi, and we look at rich messaging coming to just their stock messages app, tying those pieces together with a good video calling element too could be really exciting. I just doubt Google has the leadership and the focus to get us there.
Let me help you with leadership and focus. Very simple. For Android P launch, scrap this nonsense, remake Hangouts, tell people to just download the brand new spanking app that does everything from here to Timbuktu.
Why couldn't they make a new app and just have everybody import themselves into their
just build
No. If they whoa. If they need to rebuild Hangouts, let's say they want to add all that crap and everything else they need to add to it, and they couldn't do it to the base Hangouts app. Why don't you make a new Hangouts app and tell people?
Yeah, that's what I said.
Call it Hangouts.
You call it Hangouts.
What I was just saying, and then
we were saying
download it when Android P comes out. Done. That's it. Case closed, and you just move.
No, I think you're all wrong, and what they need to do is make a new app and just call it Hangouts.
You know what? Shish. All right, so moving to some sad news. Qualcomm is laying off 1,500 employees. This is part of their $1 billion shave off that they had mentioned earlier in the year. It's always sad that this happens. In this case, Qualcomm doesn't need to. They never needed to, in my mindset, because the company it was just, I guess at that time was just to fend off Broadcom. But once you tell investors that you're cutting costs, you got to go through with it. So just, any thoughts, anything you want to mention?
Did it say what locations they were doing?
1,250 are from San Diego HQ, and then that's really bad. And then, if I'm not mistaken, let me see where the other ones are. I think 250 coming from somewhere else. I can't remember the other location. But yeah, it's a lot, and it's mostly just from the California workforce. So basically, anyone who works in that area might go through some downsizing. So
that's unfortunate. That really is unfortunate.
Yeah, especially when like I said, financially, they don't even need to do this at all. But
that's what I think is going to be another troubling aspect of just sort of in general corporate conversations over the next several years.
Mm-hmm.
We have to have, as the coming job apocalypse, in automation and AI and self-automated vehicles and everything is going to start impacting numerous job sectors in ways that I don't even think the smartest of us can properly predict or anticipate.
Yeah.
We're going to have a different conversation on things like the dignity of human labor. I mean, look at what Tesla went through. Elon Musk saying, hey, we may be pushed a little too far, but that every other auto industry was looking at what Tesla was doing and seeing how they could also improve by reducing the amount of skilled human labor in their chain, trying to push for more automation in those sectors too. When we start seeing moves like this, where a corporation is beholden to their shareholders in a way which isn't even financially necessary, we're going to have some really tough conversations in our society about what value do we place on this labor how do we safeguard changes from businesses like this? And then how do we like move forward in an environment where a select few in our society have created amazing technology to render a significant portion of our job market almost obsolete? You know, what do we do to properly invest in re-education? What do we do to properly reinvest in infrastructure? What do we do to provide some kind of assistance for what I feel like will protect the future of a capitalist society?
Universal base income, right?
There are approaches,
or actually invest in these things.
Actually investing in them, and especially in terms of
make
education.
them cheaper.
Totally. I feel like, especially as we're putting this significant pressure on secondary education, where I don't feel colleges are actually doing a good job of preparing. I don't think my college did a good job of preparing me for life as an adult and having to pay bills and, you know, pay rent. And,
life just prepared.
Yeah, but that's the thing. You see, so this is where the conservative in me comes out, because I don't think it's the place of your college to teach you how to be an adult. I think it's the place of your college to give you tools that make you a successful professional, not to teach you how to be an adult.
I don't think that those two are as exclusive.
I think they're not very exclusive, but they're two very different things. You know, being a successful professional does not mean you're the most responsible, most adult person in the world.
But the problem with that is,
okay,
then tell colleges not to recruit 17, 18-year-olds into their schools. Okay, then
what does that have to do with basically teaching them how to pay their bills?
Okay. This is not family training class, guys.
But because Sam, if you are not capable of managing your own personal resources, then you can't be successful in whatever job you endeavor to do. You could be the most brilliant scientist on the planet, but if you're constantly having to do audits with the IRS and you're constantly missing rent payments because you can't manage your finances, and you don't have a good handle on the business side of being a brilliant scientist, then you can't get your work done.
Well, colleges can teach you how to be a good businessman. They can give you that, but they can't teach you how to be an adult. Regardless of how successful of a businessman you are, if you're an irresponsible adult, you're still an irresponsible adult. It is not your college's responsibility to make you a responsible adult.
I'm not saying colleges should helicopter parent you. It's that when I studied theater and dance in college, I had one course. Dude,
you studied theater and dance in college?
We need
to hang out, man.
A professional working actor. So over 4 years of college, I had 3 credits that even tried to scratch the surface on how to audition for projects, how to get your headshots done. Are you considering voiceover? There's a thing called a demo. What does an agent do? What does a manager do?
Yeah.
How do you manage your finances between should you incorporate? So you tell me, why do we have so many starving artists out there? It's because we're actually enforcing a methodology and an ideology that you should suffer for your art. But I like having a roof over my head, and I like eating food. So I never really got to pursue professionally performing, because I also discovered, hey, man, if I'm a producer or a director, I have way better opportunities at making money. And that's what I had to make that choice, and I had to make that transition coming over. We are actively preparing young people to fail when we do not give them the tools to actually handle real life in the job market as a professional.
Well, I think the college experience is that introduction into basically teaching these people. Well, I think it is. I think being able to manage a college schedule, live away from home, be able to manage paying your rent while you're living off campus. I think those are the kind of things that you learn as part of being an adult, as part of growing up. Your college does not. I can't say this enough, especially in this day and age where we have safe spaces in schools, especially in colleges.
I'll let you rant.
I can't say this enough, that your college is not responsible for teaching you how to be a grown-up. That is what life does. And if you're not the responsible
Warren, before you kick in,
I would want to say one thing. Then tell them not to charge me out of the ass for it.
That I can 100% agree with.
Well, right now, if we're charging
into college needs to be cheaper.
But if they're charging that right now, you better be teaching these kids how to be adults. That's what they're charging now.
I mean, I do agree. I think one thing we should bear in mind is, we all had different college experiences, and we all learned different things, and life brings out different aspects of what you learn. And one of the biggest things that colleges fail to do, and this is to Juan's point, is that they don't teach students the business aspect of their desired profession. That is what you forget the aspect of being an adult. No, forget that. The business aspect of being a scientist. Okay, prime example. Sam, you know my uncle. My uncle is a scientist. My uncle has 6 degrees. His 6th one was an MBA. Why? Because I basically started my MBA the same time he did, and he said, I came to the table in my pharmaceutical company and they didn't listen to me because I am a scientist. And they said, what do you know? So he went and got an MBA. And for him, it was not the fact that he didn't know what to do, but also just to reaffirm that. But if you were adding business courses laid into, like you said, like Juan, where he's doing theater and dance, he's talking about, okay, how do you create a business from that? How do you actually, manage your resources?
I think
those are the kind of things that make sense.
I think one of the things we're conflating is, I think you're talking about like the most basic elements of like, don't forget to brush your teeth twice a day.
I'm talking about exactly what you mentioned with paying your rent and basically being those are just things of paying your bills. Those are responsible adult stuff.
I'm not saying about paying your rent. I'm saying, do you know the tax implications of being a working actor? What's the difference between being a working actor as an incorporated entity and being a working actor as just an individual? What are your liabilities?
I don't know.
Yeah, but that's something
that's what we're talking about.
For an actor to know.
But it's also an important thing for someone who works in any profession to know. It's also an important thing for someone to know, hey, guess what? I'm not a tax professional. Maybe I should seek the help of a tax professional during tax season. That's what reasonable people do. Your college doesn't need to tell you to go seek the help of a tax professional for tax season. Why would a college have to teach you that?
No, Sam. Okay, think about it this way. Think of it this way. If you're taking a course,
I get what you're saying. You want the college to basically tell them, oh, as part of your profession, you're going to be faced with the option of doing this as a tax person.
What I'm saying, you're reducing what I'm saying to its lowest common denominator.
Okay, it's not reducing it to its lowest common denominator in any way.
It's very simple. If you offer classes to say, here are business options for what you do, you don't have to teach the whole thing. You have to present. Because if I knew in college, I may not remember, but if I knew, okay, hey, I can incorporate and do this. I don't know the details. I don't have to know the details, but I need to know it's available. Then I can go to that tax professional and say, so I was in college and I know there was this. What should I? I'm just saying, when you give the option, it's not a matter of, because that's what you have tax professionals for. The reason the reason I knew certain things in business was because I actually took business course. I went out of my way to do that.
Yep.
But not because, but I'm just saying that when you incorporate it into the curriculum and say, look, if you're thinking about making a business or doing this in acting, take these courses. Even tell the students that, not even a matter of, because people just don't know.
I mean,
there's no spoon feeding. I'm just saying
these should be the electives.
Tell them, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they need to be big time.
Exactly, dude. I went to college.
Dude, I went to college. They didn't. At UMass Amherst. They told me nothing. I could be a hungry scientist.
Well. I'm sorry. Maybe we all have very, very different
degrees. Yeah.
But I'll put it this way. No one told me that because I went to get a job as a computer systems engineer, that I shouldn't take courses in economics, that I shouldn't have a minor in mathematics, that I shouldn't take programming courses. I basically looked at my path and said, okay, I have a guidance counselor. We had this conversation and I went, okay, I'm going to take 21 credits for 3 years straight. And I'm going to split them between 3 different and disparate courses or courseworks so that I could get to where I needed to be. It's part of being an adult. You basically learn where you're trying to go.
It's also part of your upbringing. Look, because the thing is,
teach you to have a 5-year, a 10-year, and a 15-year plan. You have to be able to basically plan out your life. That's part of growing up.
Dude,
you're talking.
I'm not talking about that.
And they should.
Whoa.
You just said that you worked with a counselor to go and learn about all that stuff.
I personally went to my counselor to talk about that and talk about how I could take 21 credits because I was capped.
How is that any different than having a resource in a college which helps you learn about those
So
items?
once again, Juan, I preempted that discussion. Okay, the No College came to me and said, "Oh, you're going to want to be someone who works in finance and specializes in computer science. So maybe you should do all this." No, I went and I said, "This is what I wanted to do. Let's try to sit down and figure out."
Hold on a second.
Have to do that yourself.
Yeah, but that colleges need to do that.
I'll actually give Sam a bit of an out with that because that's something that his parents taught him to do, and that's something that most of the time parents don't tell kids to do early on, is to know what. But they don't tell them to figure out what they want to do.
Yeah,
they don't tell them. My parents were telling me that at the age of 7. What do you want to do? What do you want to be? So you start to think and process through those.
Oh, things. Jonathan Jones goes, "Not going to lie. This is one of the best conversations you guys have had." Oh God, we're totally off the beaten path right now.
Everything, but I think that's a problem where I think parents need to ask kids early on, as young as they are, what do you want to be when you grow up, and get them in that direction, because they'll start discovering it themselves, start asking the questions themselves. So when they get to these later stages, they'll automatically kind of do this because they've already tried things before, see what they like, see what they didn't like, saw the next thing they wanted to do, and they already know how to decisively do that. The problem is we tell kids, well, you can just wait till college to figure out. Well, you actually don't have to commit to anything until your junior year in college. When we tell them those things, so that's where we fall into the trap.
Sam, what do your parents do?
My dad is a pastor and my mom's a pastor as well. However, my dad has a PhD and he also has an MBA. So does my mom, has a PhD and an MBA. Actually, my mom has 2 PhDs and an MBA.
So my dad has a PhD in electrical engineering and my mom has a master's in computer science. So what performance education could I have received from my parents?
Performance education that you could have received from your parents. And I'm just simply saying, basically, I'm not saying that you should have received some kind of performance education from your parents. I'm saying simply, if you know what your outlook was like, if you have a career path in mind, it is your responsibility, not your college's responsibility, to basically seek out courses that basically facilitate you in getting to that path.
So that's what we're paying them to do.
That's what we're paying them to do.
That's what we're paying them to do.
The resources, like you took advantage of.
Yeah. So Sam, when you take your coursework, go ahead.
My one point isn't that there should be someone in a college who puts a diaper on you and sits you down and tells you exactly what you need to do. What I'm saying is, I didn't have any of those resources that you talked about, like going to a counselor to properly educate yourself on those business ramifications. That did not properly exist in the career track that I was in to study theater production and performance. I had 3 credits of the most surface examination of what a life as a working actor would be like. And I'm pretty confident that around the nation, when we're looking at the state of post-secondary education, that more students are finding themselves falling through the cracks because of lack of resources and because of a lack of a discussion, not because those students aren't somehow not bootstrapping hard enough or being proactive enough. You go to a counselor, you sought that information out. Now, all I'm saying is we need to make sure that those resources are more evenly distributed so that people have access to them like you did. And I would point to, like, say you look at like the esports program at UC Irvine. That is an amazing example of how to do this right. Every aspect of the video game industry is open for someone to pursue, from the physical education department all the way to the legal department and to people who want to play games for a living. That is an amazing resource for anyone to take advantage of and have a more well-rounded education as to what that lifestyle is actually going to resemble. Now, outside of an MBA, what other opportunities do you have on some of these other fields? scientists aren't actually getting that business education, and it shows in the conversation that we have about science and industry, and how scientists' voices are devalued at that table because they're not talking about money. Capitalism can't be the only driver in all of these discussions, though we live in a capitalist society.
Okay, here's a quick one. Here's something that Morgan Stanley said this week. That said about some drug that was curing diseases. It said, is it financially profitable to do that? Think about it. Because these guys are not scientists. Again, this is a finite guy saying something. I'm just saying.
I think that's a different discussion and basically putting a value on people's lives.
But it stems from the same place.
Yeah, it does.
It comes from the same place. And saying that that's the mindset. And because there's no guy who has a science background going, no, I mean, yeah, you can make it profitable. You just have to find ways to do it. Yep. When a finance guy is just going, look, numbers are not crunching. You guys are spending too much money developing this drug. It's too expensive. That's the same answer my uncle got by the hepatitis C drug. So I'm just saying that that's the kind of thing that, I mean, I get it when you go to the guidance counselor. I went to the guidance counselor at UMass Amherst. I said, look, I wanted to be a doctor, but also, again, I also wanted to do business. I'm in Nigeria. That's how we are. And do you know what they told me? She said, why would you want to do that? She didn't give me options.
Yeah, but okay, let me break this down so people understand that I'm not just coming out of a place where I'm just saying, oh, you should just be awesome. No, I went to high school in Milton High. I was told by my high school guidance counselor that I couldn't get into 3 of my top schools, BC, Northeastern, and Harvard, because guess what? Well, you might not be smart enough. I got into BC and Northeastern, didn't pass and didn't get into Harvard. But hey, that's life. Went to Northeastern. My Northeastern guidance counselor wanted to basically push me towards the track of doing something totally different than the engineering I wanted to do. I went to UMass. The UMass guidance counselor pushed me to doing something different than I wanted to do. I had to go to 3 different guidance counselors in UMass Amherst until I found a minority, a Black gentleman, who sat me down and said, the only way we're going to do this is if you're serious and I'm serious. This was after a semester that I got the 2.8 GPA. So please, don't assume that I'm just saying this is easy. You just go in there and it works out. You have to be tenacious. You have to know where you need to go. You have to know what your track is. And you have to be the one that basically pushes it. A college will give you the education to get somewhere, to be a professional, to be an adult, to be someone who can see that end state in your life. You need to be the one driving that as an individual. I'm not saying, hey, colleges shouldn't offer as many diverse courses as possible. I'm saying that people need to be the one to plan out their lives. Colleges can't do that.
Sam, your personal experiences, doesn't that sound a lot like what I was advocating for? Why should you have had to have gone to so many different people if secondary education is exactly what you're claiming it is? And people,
I'm not claiming secondary education is one thing or the other. I'm just saying it's not your college's responsibility to make you an adult.
Yeah, no, but here's the thing:
responsibility to prepare you, and you had to go out of your way. So what were you
definitely? If I'm signing up for a math class, it's their responsibility to make sure to give me a good damn good math education.
Sam, you mentioned one very important thing that you are skipping on. You said very simple thing. You have to go to 3. All you want is one guidance counselor to tell you.
What you need is one guidance counselor, definitely, yes.
Yeah.
But the thing is this.
That is really it.
Colleges will give you the resource of a guidance counselor, right? And it's up to you to say, I'm not going to take what this guidance counselor says and go somewhere else. Otherwise, if I just basically say, hey, my college gave me a guidance counselor that says, hey, you can't do what you want to do, then, hey, I'm just going to listen to that person. And that's it.
I'll wrap it up and say this. I'll just wrap it up and say with this. Sam likes to pay for things and then work to make those things he paid for work for him.
Whereas I like to get what I pay for, and I don't like having to pay for one thing and then fight for 4 other things to get what I actually want.
I mean, look, guys, I get it. Everyone wants everything to work perfectly, and I agree with you. Yeah, in that sense, I do agree with you. But I also think it's not just saying you pay for something. We all have very scarce resources. I went to UMass Amherst. It is a state school. You don't get the choice. No. Let me finish, right? My resources were limited. But even though my resources were limited, I understand that the only thing that's going to get me to a place where I can actually sit in the boardroom and talk to other people and basically feel as though I didn't lose out on it, is my own personal drive. That is something that you learn through life. You don't need a college would never be able
or your parents.
Or your parents, yes. But a college would never be able to teach you that. A college would never be able to tell you, basically, when the tax laws change, that you should pay attention to that. A college is never going to be able to teach you so many things I've had to learn through professional experience and true life. They're just not going to be able to tell you. And asking a college to do this, it's basically disingenuous to the person who's relying on up-to-date information. It's just not going to happen.
And that's where you miss the point. Because I'm not asking for that. I'm asking for the college to give you that one guidance professional, not go to find 4 or 5. I don't want to look. That's a waste of time in college. You know,
it's a waste. Definitely, it is.
Exactly. So when you're paying, I paid out of school tuition. By the way, international fees in UMass.
Oh yeah,
it was expensive. For me to do that,
you might as well went to a private school. To
me to do that and then go through the rubbish time of talking to dumb guidance counselors and going, I think I can undo this myself. That is a waste of resource and time. I'm not talking about that. I want the schools to do what they are paid for correctly. Guide them and say, look, if you're going to study biology, here are the things you can actually. Nobody even told me that, because I thought there was only 2 paths until I started working. And I spoke to somebody else and they went, like, you can do this and do this and do this. Those are the kind of things you just want to tell students and say, hey, you want to be a biology major. You know, you can actually do this. Then the kid goes, oh shit, okay. This actually is more interesting. I like this because that's tied to the math I like or whatever. Then you now, boom, done. But they don't do that. That's simple. Nobody's asking you to spoon feed, change the diaper. I'm saying when you talk, guidance counselors sucking.
Yeah, but what you advocating, or at
least what you guys said.
No. It's not about just being current in the time. What you basically were saying is that basically they have to teach you the end to end of your profession.
No.
They have to teach you the business. Like the example of being a performing artist. They should teach you the business side as well as the performance.
No. We said they should.
When you have electives that you yourself should be able to do that.
This is exactly why we have clerks. This is why we have internships. This is why we have every other supporting industry.
That's why Northeastern is fucking great with that shit.
Yeah, Northeastern's amazing, man.
Exactly. I'm just saying that you don't get it, that it's not a matter of them telling you what to do. It's a matter of saying you lay it out.
There you agree with my point. Colleges can't tell you what to do.
Lay it out. That's the problem. Seriously, they don't, and I'm they don't, because you know what it is. Look,
my guidance counselor was cool, man.
I'm sitting out here. We went to the same school. I did it myself, but the problem is there are many other kids who just don't get it. The people that because I graduated and I'm looking at them now, I'm going, wow, and they look at me and they go, look, this is the part that I find shocking. They go, wow, you're doing YouTube. How could you do that? Because you don't allow kids to think in college and expand. You can't go out of your own scope.
I think between me and you, I think we show a very clear, a very clear example that you could go to the same college and have 2 totally different experiences.
Yeah.
Because I get what you're saying, and I agree with that. UMass probably at your time and my time wasn't the most helpful when it came to basically directing students. But like I tell you, there's one department in UMass that I donate to on a constant basis.
Your department was on point.
No, not even my department. It's the fine arts department, because as a student employee at the fine arts department, the director of the finance department, my employers there basically were very supportive in basically me exploring a lot of different things, and basically telling me about people they knew who were doing things similar to what I was doing, and people I actually talk to. And that's why I think I got the most out of it. And that had nothing to do with my major.
Resources. I think that's unacceptable. I think you should have done it all on your own.
You see, okay, thanks. Well, I get you. As much as you're saying that, as much as you're saying that,
a lot of money for
as much as you're saying that,
figure out everything on how to do it yourself.
As much as you're saying that one, what I'm saying is these are people who I was working with, had nothing whatsoever to do with my major. So you get experiences from so many different parts of life that you can't just sit down and say the college is going to give this to you. This was a work experience for me that ended up turning into lifelong friendships. And this is part of what you learn through life, and part of your resources in life. This is part of what you take along with.
I don't think you should have even had access to that. I think you should have graduated college.
Now you're just being facetious. Yeah. That's very different. Now you're just being facetious.
Yeah, but because you're not
trying to make a point anymore. You're not. I'm not. Dude, you're not even.
You took my argument at its weakest point, saying that college.
I took your argument and I made an argument based on things you were saying. Now you're just being facetious and saying no. Colleges shouldn't give students the opportunity to meet people at work.
Like you took my argument at its weakest point.
You know what? That's not even a weak point of my argument. I'm sorry, but we can move on. At this point, it's already devolved into basically five-year-olds arguing. So let's just move on.
Look, the matter of fact is that I'm right. Everything I said, listen to me, guys. These three guys do not know anything. I'm just joking, but there are many sides to this argument, and at the end of the day,
we went a long way into
that.
We
we
kind of did, didn't we?
I think that everyone should be able, once you go into school, should be able to get at least access to the same opportunities. Because as you can see, Sam and I didn't have the same access to the same opportunities, and we went to school at the same time. That's the thing.
Yeah. So we're in school at the same time.
Yeah. So anyway, moving on to something you can get a good access opportunity and cheap. AT&T offering $15 packages for TV. Man, look at that segue. I am
this podcast not brought to you by AT&T.
No, it's good. Let's move on. I've watched I've caught up to every episode of Admin Room and everything. So it would just turn like I'd be here all day.
$15 package. Any guy thoughts on this? Do you think it's a good move by AT&T?
I think it's a smart move by AT&T. I mean, I think the traditional.
This is them leveraging the direct TV streaming, right?
Yeah.
This entire industry is getting savaged by cord cutting behavior, so they need to do something, and they need to have a response. What I don't know, and what we'll have to wait and see, is can an old traditional media company rebrand themselves into something more nimble, more exciting to cord cutters, more dynamic? The baggage of AT&T, just those letters, and DirecTV as a traditional outlet still might not appeal, even if the service is pretty great.
It's actually one of the best services out there.
I mean, it looks solid. Yeah. It looks like a solid offering, but I'm not going to jump on it, and I'm happy with with YouTube TV right now.
I'm not. They charge me so much money.
Damn it, get over it.
But I mean, again,
the best part is that you complained about that while it was a solution for you to watch the damn Super Bowl.
I was sitting there complaining about YouTube.
Canceled it, even when he had no solution to the Super Bowl that was there with him right there at the time. It's to this day that makes no sense.
I had no idea, man, until after. Anyway, moving on to some more interesting news. Amazon Prime officially announced the amount of users they had, and they have 100 million paying customers.
$1 bills, y'all.
Mm-hmm.
If you take it at the normal rate of Amazon Prime, not normal, but the original rate at $99.
$79.
$79 originally, $99 now.
Yeah. So $79 a year, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that is just some sweet revenue right there.
And they offer a good amount of stuff for it, to get to get in there. Everybody loves it. 2-day free shipping.
Oh, it's definitely worth it.
That Prime now. You click on that, get stuff delivered in 2 hours. Yeah, I scared my mom. I scared my mom with that recently.
What?
she wanted to make something in the kitchen. We didn't need it. I had all the tools I have in my apartment for baking. I didn't actually have a hand mixed blender, so I needed to buy a new one. And I was like, oh, let me buy it on Prime now. And it was here in an hour. And she thought it was going to get here in like 2 days. And he was popping up at the door, then in the bag. She was like, is this the world we live in now?
Yes, mother. Your son's a wizard. Your son's a wizard.
Just wait until the drones arrive.
Oh, yeah. Be 20-minute delivery time for that, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting how Amazon is growing. Their market cap is super high right now. I mean, the talking in Wall Street is who is going to hit $1 trillion market cap. Everybody thought it was Apple, but Apple has been stuck at that 800 range for a while. Amazon has jumped up, Google as well has jumped up, and Microsoft is the one that's growing the fastest because of their cloud services. But that's just like an ancillary note there. The other company that's doing really well, and I'm so happy, just to disclose, I do own Netflix stock. Just throw it out there. Netflix has almost the same market cap as Disney. It is bigger than Warner Brothers, Fox, all those other companies combined. And they have 110 million paying customers. They added 2 million in the US and 8.3 this last quarter. They're growing. And right now, so those talks of Disney buying Netflix is over. Can't.
I don't know why they started.
Yeah, I'm just saying they do
because there were talks of Disney making its own
that's
service, and they thought they were going to be people thought initially a few years ago that instead of Disney building its own, we're just going to buy Netflix, because that's Disney 101. Why build your own when you buy it?
That is true, though. I mean, they have all their studios.
But the thing is, they wouldn't want to have to manage other people's stuff. So, because that turns into not managing their stuff, having to manage other people's stuff too. They rather not do that. They don't want the conflict of interest. They rather just manage their own thing and watch it fail like all the other streaming services do. That's not named Netflix or Amazon. I don't see why we keep doing this, but okay.
Well, because you see some holdouts. Like, we were very skeptical about Amazon as a streaming service. And then they started producing their own content, and they followed more of an HBO model, and then that worked. There are models that you can replicate, and I think Disney's looking at their catalog saying, we can be an HBO or an Amazon unto ourselves.
Unless that thing shoves every single piece of their content into there from the beginning.
Yep.
Yeah.
If it turns into a thing where they got like half of their stuff up there and they keep back and forth between what they put on and what they don't, it's just going to turn people.
The only problem they have, and they've kind of stated it, is the Netflix Amazon shows, also not Netflix Marvel shows.
Yeah.
And that one they might actually just keep them because those tune more adult, and they don't necessarily want to go that.
Why can't they just sit and license their thing like legitimately? Somebody's not paying money just to watch one show on one specific network. Like, they're not doing that.
Yeah, but somebody uses that's usually the gateway to start, and then that's what Netflix does. It's like they offer you one cool thing, and then when you jump into Netflix, you go, "Oh, they have this plus this old show you like plus this. Oh, I didn't finish this." And then but
to me, it's like, if you know this is a Disney property, don't screw them over and not put it over there. Like, I mean, that's my problem.
I said, I don't know. I'm just saying that's where they are. But I do know that it's the whole Disney catalog, which is why the Disney catalog left Netflix. Remember, Netflix had a deal for every single Disney item. And then right now it's only the current Marvel movies and the current movies that came out last year. And those are going once their service launches next year. So everything of Disney is on there. Plus, you're going to get so there's going to be Marvel shows, there's going to be Star Wars shows, like everything.
This is what happened. Isn't Apple doing the same thing too? Apple's doing the same thing.
Apple has its own streaming.
Yeah, they've been dipping their toe into it.
It's more like,
and they've been so
This is what happens when you have too many MBAs in the room. You get 25 different products that are not human focused because everybody goes, "Does it make money though?"
And show here. So, but no, I think Disney's Zone is going to be a big juggernaut because they're going to drop everything they have into it.
I don't think they're going to jump everything they have.
I don't think they are.
Because Disney is the master of the 50th anniversary of Cinderella in 4D HD HK 4K 3D.
It makes too much sense. So that's why they're not going to do it
afterwards. Like, they're going to drop. It's going to be in there eventually, but just not immediately. It's all going to be there. It's just not a coming. Like, it's not like they're going to drop everything.
I guarantee. Here's what's going to happen: people are going to log in and they're going to go, "Can I get my '90s classic movies from Disney?" And when they're not there, the pissiness is going to start. And that's what they're going to do. They're not going to include the stuff that people really want to see. They're going to want you to come back later for that, and everyone's going to go, "No." And then go back to Netflix. And if they drop a bomb if they drop it where they go, boom, here's everything, all our past catalog, we have everything up until the 2000s is available on there. After the 2000s, it gets a little funky, but anything from 99 and older is already up there online, available for you to watch. That's a great way for it to start.
Yeah,
but if they don't do that from the start, and they do this messing and picking around thing, it's going to piss people off. Because the funny thing is, that's what the WWE Network did. They didn't drop everything initially. They didn't even drop the Monday Night War stuff initially. They cherry picked around with it. And the only reason people kept subscriptions around is because they get the pay-per-views for $10 a month. That's why people keep it around.
One of the things, because I would love to it would be awesome. I would love to sign up for a Disney streaming subscription and then catch like those old 1970s like wild wilderness world of Disney's. Like
Jesus Christ, they had those.
They just have to make sure over all the old cartoons that they put a placement up there that said this was racist back then and this is not our views right now.
I see someone has been paying attention to Reddit news feeds, right? With Goldberg and
Whoopi Goldberg. That's right.
Whoopi Goldberg and Luna.
Oh no! What was that about? I was thinking about something else with the Lisa Poo thing.
Oh, so the Lisa Poo thing is also one of them. So Whoopi Goldberg has a disclaimer at the start of I think the Looney Tunes. What was it? A collection, right? There was a collection that they had, and she basically just said, "Just remember, this was from the '70s. At that time, there were stereotypes and things like that. Just basically getting people prepared not to basically be all SJWs about a lot of the things they saw in the cartoon."
Well, and also just like properly.
I think it's fair enough.
We could change these things, but it's important for history to maintain them. It's like when people complain about, removing the N-word from like Tom Sawyer or Huckleberry Finn.
Oh, that's just stupid.
We need to point to a history where we can show that we've made progress.
You can't whitewash history, man.
But the point that I was getting to, going back to Disney and seeing them roll out that catalog, I think one of the reasons why these companies cherry pick is it's probably difficult to go back and renegotiate contracts from the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, where there was not explicit writing as to what future distribution and monetization of that distribution would resemble. I think once we get into the 70s and 80s and we start to see the proliferation of home recording equipment, those contracts are easier to go back and examine the potential financial impact of moving them to a streaming service. But if you've got a long past actor whose family is now managing their estate on a popular product from the 1960s, and you can't get it on your platform because they're asking too much money, that's what's ultimately going to be a difficult situation for Disney. Because Disney's not going to play ball. They're a take my ball and go home kind of company. They're not going to pay outlandishly for older content just to make it a more complete service for people subscribing.
Yeah, just to quickly round up, Netflix market cap right now is 143.1 billion. Disney is 151.3 billion, only $8 billion difference. That's how big Netflix is right now. That's from DVDs through the mail.
Yeah, no, but I think Richie A made a very good point. With all these subscription services, the costs are adding up really fast. Like I know personally, I use Netflix, Hulu, and Amazon because Amazon's free, right? And even that, I'm still thinking.
Well, that's not free.
Amazon Video comes with my Prime subscription, so for me, it's free.
But that's still $99 a year that you pay for that. That's included. That's included.
That's the thing about Amazon. Yeah, go ahead.
Adding in the cost of Amazon Prime, factoring that in and dividing that up monthly. With Amazon, Hulu, Netflix, and YouTube TV, we're still paying less than if we added a premium TV option to our cable plan. It's close. Now,
it's cheaper, but it is adding up.
Getting a much better service.
But do you think there's a lot of duplication as well, though? There's still a lot of duplication around places because sometimes you go on Netflix. On Netflix, you see some things from HBO, and then you have HBO Go, so you also have it on HBO. And then if you have Hulu with stars on there, and you get the Stars app, there are a lot of like duplicates there. And
I mean they are, but I think some things about the services is about for me right now, it's about what shows I'm watching and which ones are tied. So for instance, I just finished watching Lost in Space, Altered Carbon. That is strictly Netflix. It will never go be anywhere, right? And then
actually, Hulu has a couple really solid originals.
Hulu has some there's Handmaid's Tale is coming back up.
Dude, the Path. I'm like, I don't know what the show is about anymore, but I'm addicted to that show.
And also there's the Jeffrey Donovan, the guy from Burn Notice has.
Oh yeah, he has.
The one where he's like
something odd.
Right? Yeah, like he thought he had powers.
That's not bad. I had that on in the background, but I blitzed through that in 2 days while working on other videos. Like that was a pretty solid. That made me happy to have Hulu. I enjoyed that one. So there's a ton of for third party content from studio produced content. Yeah, there's a ton of overlap. but I'm less and less. I feel that burning desire to watch other companies' movies, and I actually am kind of getting into the vibe of what does Netflix have out this month? What's going to be new?
Exactly, yeah.
What is Amazon bringing out? Because they're rivaling traditional media, not only traditional media distribution, but traditional media.
Well, you know, Amazon has that $1 billion Game of Thrones, not Game of Thrones, Lord of the Rings show coming up. $1 billion production cost.
So this is my take on it is Amazon has put out some good shows there, but nothing that's been amazing. I am a little bit worried that Amazon is wasting money, and I'm also a little excited that someone's doing a true Lord of the Rings $1 billion series.
$1 billion.
I'm not worried about them wasting money. I want to see some spectacle. I want them to blow me away.
It's like the businessman in me goes, the geek in me goes, yeah.
No, this is one where, like, if I see like Sauron, like I need to be quaking at home, going, "Oh my god!" Because it looks so good. Yeah. So I mean, it'll be interesting to see how that all pans out. But speaking of something else that segue's not there. Anyway, I'm trying to. I just couldn't think of it. Razer had a visionary idea last year because now, besides Xiaomi jumping into the mobile gaming phone market, Nubia has a new phone. It's called the Red Magic smartphone. It is priced at $397. Comes out April 25th. It is powered by the Snapdragon 835. It has a 6-inch display, 2160 by 1080, 8 gigs of RAM, up to 128 gigabytes of storage, 3800 milliamp battery, got game boost. Some of this thing doesn't have all the high-end features that, you know, Razer has, like the display and also the DAC built into to this thing. So it is it's interesting. Plus, there's rumors now that, of course, you know who's going to jump in. Asus is going to come out with an ROG phone. So basically, last year when Razer was talking about, and they knew because Razer's CEO came out and says for one game they are actively 100 million users in China. He specifically stated China. He didn't care about the US market, and he just knew he needed to get into that market and carve out a space in that market. Because if you have 100 million users for one mobile game, I can't remember the name of the game, then that means there are a lot of people who are interested in that. And now everyone's, you know, at least the Chinese manufacturers, they're all jumping in and say, hey, well, this is our market. This is, you know, our space. let's
yeah, I mean, where we used to kind of make fun of mobile focus for gaming, like Ouya or like Nvidia getting into trying to push Android into a gaming audience. I think we've reached it. I remember a couple years back I was making fun of. I think it was right around the launch of the Xbox One and the PS4. I'm saying, like, well, just buy an iPad. It games in 2K and it's better than a console. Like, facetiously just trying to get you guys mad.
I remember that.
Yeah. But now I think we've actually have crested into when you've got PUBG and Fortnite mobile, and they're actually pretty decent. They're not terrible executions of those concepts for mobile audiences. I think now is the right time to start planting that seed.
But
Oh, go ahead.
The interesting thing is about these mobile first phones. I feel like they're all gaming phones that they're all missing the one thing. Well, they're building it, or hopefully they're building it. And I saw Razer was building up on it, but they're all kind of missing the one thing that I think will push this over the top that Samsung has, which is DeX. If you can get this running with some type of desktop platform to have people just be able to drop their phones in, cable, and, you know, keyboard, mouse, and just kind of go, and it's sort of a natural thing for them to do, it'd be great. But a lot of these phones don't have that dock or don't have that. I know Razer's kind of
but don't forget that basically, if you look at DeX, uses a USB Type-C, and also the Nintendo Switch uses a USB Type-C. So the hardware's there.
Yeah. So the hardware is absolutely there, but it's that software that needs to be developed there for it. And that's where Samsung's jumping ahead. That's where this could easily be a thing. Where Samsung could turn on the Switch in a minute, and then all of a sudden, every esports mobile thing is sponsored by them with every single Galaxy-based device running DeX and every side of the game.
Now,
they could Thanos this shit in 2 seconds, man.
What's really funny though is that, you know, a Samsung will do it because they can sell a dock. But if you look at a Huawei, all you need is a cable. Like their desktop mode doesn't require any other fancy hardware. You get a USB-C to HDMI out and you're done.
Yes,
but
yeah.
That's not a lot of money. So Samsung selling a dock will make this look way more legitimate, even though it's completely unnecessary.
Yeah, but here's the thing though, with the dock, you get to charge your phone. You can't do that with the Huawei.
Well, yeah,
and it's also
and you can plug in more peripherals.
Yeah,
but
the whole thing is giving.
The big thing about the dock is you can actually connect your own internet, like a separate wired internet.
Ethernet cable, man. None of that Wi-Fi. So that dedicated hardcore gaming
does serve a purpose. But yeah, it can be done with a wire for cheaper. You would lose out on all the other things the dock has, but it's definitely probably work just as well.
Okay, so
like if I could just plug in one cable, like for example, if I could power draw off of HDMI, or my next TV will probably have some kind of USB-C or Thunderbolt style connection, then the phone could be charging off of that one cable from the TV, and I just have a wireless controller anyway. So like my PS4 isn't connected over Ethernet, so I'd be fine with the Wi-Fi that I currently have to drive my current.
Dear God, man, what are you doing?
So literally,
hey, I connect wireless as well.
A $10.
What's wrong with you, men?
Will unseat what a DeX dock can do. But I see what you're saying. I mean, it would be nice to have like a continuum style dock for if you really want to make that robust.
So basically,
it's not necessary.
Yeah, so basically, this is the dock, and this is exactly what it is. You have the power connection, a USB Type C. You have a HDMI, Ethernet, and then 2 USBs. So it does kind of give you options.
So to put it,
it's not necessary.
To put it in perspective, when I did the pre-briefing for the Galaxy S9, the demo for DeX, you know what they showed off? First, it wasn't PowerPoint, or no, it was Final Fantasy plugged in. And the guy was playing, and it's like. But you know, when you really want to take that game to the next level and put it on the screen, and then he was playing off the games, off the pad itself, because the DeX pad is different; it lays flat. And while it was on the screen, I was like, So, which is the question I want to bring up is, you know, we all dismiss Razer's laptop connections. How does that fit into this mindset as well, or maybe not? I mean,
it should have been a dock. It should have been a dock.
Yeah,
not a dock. Like I think I said this before when they created it. I was like, this should just be a dock that I plug in and it just kind of goes.
Yeah, but it means you don't need to have a monitor as well. You have its screen. I'm just saying. Think of it that way.
The thing is, I'm looking at.
But nobody wants to game on a monitor that small.
Yeah. Now if you're gaming on a phone, you can use a small monitor.
But if I want a game bigger, I want bigger display. I don't want a smaller to just.
It's 14-inch gaming laptops out there. I mean, they are. So I'm just saying that it's a different aspect to what we're talking about, but it still gives you that. It gives you extra battery life. It gives you more storage as well. You know, and I think you can load in your games from that as well. So if you have a lot of mobile games, that's something you could actually have stored in there. Just it's a different option, so to speak.
So because I own a Blade and I like my Razer, but I'm not a part of the Razer cult. I think there is a good business play to be made for having proprietary Razer branded solutions. And so to Warren's point, they should have a dock. They absolutely should. Yeah. But I could see an entire spectrum of, you know, like maybe a simple Razer TV Connect, and it's like a cable and a little power adapter manager so you can charge your phone at the same time. The Razer DeX version or Continuum version where you've got like multiple IO, take that up to more of maybe like a Switch style cradle so that you've got hardware tactile buttons for your gaming, and then take that all the way up to like a gaming laptop experience. And if you put those snakes on the back of it with some RGB customizations, then the Razer fan base will support that ecosystem. I don't think you draw many people into that ecosystem, but I think the people who are already there would seriously consider that range of products.
True, but I also think even if somebody were out of the ecosystem buying, they might buy one of those options. You're definitely
totally.
You know, it's like, okay, you know, the cable, but I do like that dock. It's really nice. Even though I don't need the cable, I only need the cable. I might as well pick that up. So I do hear you at that point. I think that's actually pretty wise. Razer checks, please.
I know, man, just giving away all our great ideas today.
Moving on, New York is going to
You said the wrong thing.
Yeah,
I read the link and I was like,
I just got into that myself. I was like, wait, I thought I wrote in.
It's a text story, but it's not the kind of text story we would normally cover.
Yeah. So, Sam, can you take it off? Carry on, because I fooled myself.
I thought we weren't going to talk about it, but okay, yeah, sure. I'm not too even versed in it, but yeah, basically, New York is investigating cryptocurrency exchanges. Yay! Now, which they do need to do, because a lot of cryptocurrency exchanges have been popping up, and there are really not a lot of regulatory rules attached to these BitCurrency exchanges. So if you think about BitCurrency, a lot of people would think they're very savvy about Bitcoins or all these cryptocurrencies, but you find a lot of people still don't even use their own wallets. They don't have a wallet saved somewhere on a hard drive. They're still depending primarily on the wallets that are provided by these exchanges or some other service. So if they go belly up, if these people decide they basically just want to just take your cryptocurrency and fade, you're out of luck. And there's no regulation a lot of times around this whole cryptocurrency exchanges or transactions. So it's a good idea. I think overall it's a good thing.
Yeah, because what happens is there's a lot of exchanges out there, and everyone has access to many of these exchanges. There are a few that are the bigger ones out there that there are a little more about people that want to follow the guidelines. A lot of them call out that say, "Hey, we follow U.S. security guidelines, even though we don't have to. We do follow these specific rules and regulations because they want you to entrust them a bit more." But there's a ton of them out there that just pop up that don't have any of that type of regulation. Many of them aren't even based here in the United States.
Oh yeah.
And I think it's a good idea to research some of these, because I think a lot of these current exchanges that I've seen and I've read through, a lot of these exchanges should be kind of blocked from the U.S., to be honest with you.
Yeah, they should be.
There's a lot of them that are just absolutely just untrustworthy, cheap, easily hacked, and stuff like that.
And also, I think
that's not all of them, because there are some good ones that are overseas that are.
I can think of a few. There are a few overseas. Yeah. One or two that I have used that are overseas.
Yeah.
They're good. Like with everything, they're good players and bad actors as well.
Yeah.
But I think the thing, if anyone is really going to say, because I'm always someone who's like, hey, keep the government out of it as long as possible, because when the government gets in, it's basically always a headache. But for this, I would say we need regulation, because Mount Gox comes to mind, right?
Yeah.
Mount Gox comes to mind.
BitConnect.
Yeah, BitConnect comes to mind. So if you go out there, just go on the internet and Google BitConnect, Google Mount Gox, and find out what happened there. It's very sad that people lost millions.
And even look up exit scams on ICOs. There's a lot.
There was one this week. That's what I was going to talk about.
Well, that was the fake one, though. That's the one. They faked that. Yeah. Like a bunch of idiots. They faked it. They faked it. You talking about Save Droid, whatever it was. They faked it.
The one where he said "peace out." He sent out a tweet saying "peace out." All the investors were like, "What?"
They did a video showing that the office was empty. No, they faked that, bro.
He raised like 50 million for the ISO.
Yeah,
and just said "peace out." And everybody was like, "Where did he just?"
Yeah,
because they were actually tracking well. The company was doing well, was tracking well. The ISO was doing well, and then out of nowhere, he just puts a tweet with a ball and was like,
"Yeah, it was probably one of the worst marketing decisions ever." That was all fake.
That was like a OnePlus type, whoever they hired to do that.
Yeah, no, but it is very telling, because he could do that.
Yeah,
and
they could do that.
It really isn't
no consequences.
Much of a consequence for him doing it.
There isn't,
because you're not investing. You're buying you're not buying a fiat currency. You're just buying
an asset.
Yeah, and it doesn't exist in the real world. So
it's a code.
It's code. It's an interesting place. Anyway, let's move on, because I know we ranted quite a bit on that, on a topic that wasn't on our topic list.
It wasn't our topic list. You put it on our topic.
No, the topic we were talking about was actually Qualcomm laying off 1,500 people. Then we went to education.
Oh, how the hell did we get there?
Yeah.
Wow, yeah, that was
somebody go back in the video and in the comments explain how we got there.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly, we took a left and then a right, and then we drove down lanes.
Did somebody use Apple Maps?
Someone used MapQuest. Someone using MapQuest.
Quick one here. New York Times, AT&T and Verizon and GSMA are being investigated over eSIMs with collusion. So, according to reports, the DOJ is looking at evidence that these parties work together in an attempt to limit embedded eSIMs, while it's supposed to let customers switch wireless carriers without changing out hardware SIMs. The allegation is that AT&T and Verizon, which combine up to 7% of wireless subscribers, wanted the ability to lock the devices on their networks, even if they had an eSIM.
Yeah, but they've been doing it.
Yeah, so
they've been doing it. You have to fight like hell. You have to fight like hell to get them to unlock it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And let's say that, you know, DOJ actually does find it there. What, they're going to get fined tens of thousands of dollars or something? Like, I seriously doubt any actual repercussions will be served to companies like AT&T and Verizon. They get to play by their own rules.
Somebody would have to come in with some pressure and push that down, similar to what Google did with the whole Spectrum thing against Verizon, enforcing things.
I would advocate them doing this like they did with the tobacco companies, basically making AT&T, Verizon, and these other companies pay for consumer awareness ads on the airwaves, basically telling people that your phone has these features and you should ask to move your device that you've paid for somewhere else. You don't need to buy a new phone to move to a different carrier. I think that would be very, very nice.
Well, but this is eSIMs. These are SIMs that are built inside the actual phones that you can't take out, which they're trying to lock. Verizon officially cannot lock. By law, they cannot lock any phones because that's how they got that extra spectrum of what they call that 4G.
Because basically,
they've walked it back. They're not locking
Verizon's locking phones again.
Yeah.
Sure?
Bloomberg because Bloomberg reporting that Apple is among the companies complaining about this. Apple is probably one of the big ones.
Well, I know they've been doing it to iPads, but I don't think they were doing it to.
No. So it's not that they've gone whole hog and that became an industry standard, but there's no regulatory oversight from the FCC to enforce that. So they actually put out that I forget what their specious reasoning was, but it was along the lines of, won't someone think of the children? We need to protect phones and make things more secure.
Something, I remember that.
And so it's a go.
Which phones are they locking down?
I think all, if I'm mistaken.
I think they're like it's not that they're all locked now; it's that they will be locking.
Yeah, because basically the agreement they had was they shouldn't. There was no law binding. So, which is basically they did it for a while, and they were like, "Nah, we don't need to."
So the way this thing works is, if you think the FCC chairman in that administration is going to pursue,
remember, now it's changed, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Oh no, the FCC, the current FCC chairman used to be a lawyer for Verizon. So they know. So they know they can do whatever.
So CNET is one of the first articles that popped up, but their title is Verizon says it's locking its phones down to combat theft. So phone theft is why we can't do.
Yeah, to obviously to protect consumer property, we have to make
your SIM. Really?
Dude, it's like you guys are saying. It's like we have to protect the children by taking away people's phones or making people pay for 2-3 different phones in 1 year because it protects the children.
This is what's going to happen
because for them kids. It's for them kids.
But the funny thing is Samsung and Apple grow stronger and pushing their own brand and also pushing their own phones to sell directly, especially with their own monthly plans. They're going to run into a lot of shit with this. I mean, it's still the same thing where they're still the carriers here still run the show when it comes to hardware, but slowly but surely all that stuff's going to start changing around. So they can sit here and lock the phone until somebody sits there and goes, "Why don't you just buy from Samsung directly?" I can do that. And as soon as they kind of get that idea, they know they can do that. It's a wrap.
Yeah. Speaking of buying directly, all the credit card companies have united to actually have a checkout system. Visa, MasterCard, Discover, and American Express. Before, they all had separate. There was like a Visa checkout. There was a MasterCard Pass. This is to combat PayPal, which is a very easy experience. We all know how it is that sometimes you go to a website and you don't want to put in your information. You see PayPal checkout. Walmart uses PayPal sometimes as well. So it's very easy for you to just click on that and not actually sign up for like an account with that service. Mm-hmm. So the credit card companies are coming to do this. And as Sam said, this took them a while to actually come up with this.
I'm shocked it took them this long.
You
got to get a whole bunch of other companies that compete against to agree on something. So they're doing nothing but hissy fitting at each other until they get beaten down so bad that they have to build something that's going to automatically fail. See ISIS.
I was going to say it's ISIS all over again.
Yeah.
Exactly what I was going to say.
That was such. I feel so bad. Like, I'm sorry, but I feel so bad for these companies, especially with ISIS. It was so bad. It's like they came out with a name for an app, like, we're going forward with this. Yay, everyone is signing up, and then terrorism.
That would have failed anyways. If they could have named the thing like Happy Glow Button, and it wouldn't have mattered. It would have still failed anyways, because Samsung and Apple would have crushed them.
At least the person who named it, and or at least who created that whole thing, or who was the head of it, can blame the terrorist organization, even if
exactly.
Now he can say, well, it probably would have worked. I mean, it could have, but name.
No, it wasn't going to work. It never was going to work. You guys failed long before that.
The excuse would be there for it, but yeah. So that's I think that's pretty much it for stories for this week. Want to say first of all, Richard. Thank you. Richard won the SteelSeries headset, but he said that, since he lives in the UK, I shouldn't send it. I should actually give it to someone else. So I appreciate that gesture. So we are going to pick somebody from the comments. Juan, I know I didn't mention this earlier, but can you?
Sorry. Yeah. Hold on. I'll do.
You're saying sorry. I mean, I was the one who put you in this predicament.
No worries. Hold on. Scrolling through. And do you remember who's won recently? Because I don't remember.
Just if you tell me the names, I'll know. Sorry, Derek. No, you again, because you won.
And I landed on Derek.
I knew it.
Okay, hold on. Let me do it again. Okay, ready? Scroll, and stop. Jonathan Jones? Has Jonathan Jones won anything?
I don't think Jonathan has won.
Jonathan Jones is
has won now.
Shield. So
go Calf.
Well, he's won now.
Well, congratulations, Jonathan. You've won a SteelSeries Actus 5 gaming headset. Thank you, Ronald. Ronald also mentioned he won his Turtle Beach headset as well.
Damn, Ronald is very honest. It's like, no, I've won just in case I get picked. I've already won, so.
There's a guy of people we like. So Jonathan basically hit me up on Twitter and just basically send a link with your YouTube account so I can verify you, and then I can send the headset to you. So congratulations, Captain America. I'll see you next Thursday.
Yo,
man, next week, right?
Yeah,
awesome.
It is
great. It's like, oh yeah, it's like the end of the month, and you're like realizing, oh god, we're a week away from the end of the month.
I'm so excited about this movie.
It's going to be a lot of us. I
just want to see Captain America catch Thanos' 2 fingers
and break, right?
Yeah, like
as long as a lot of people die in that movie. I want to see massive amounts of death.
I just want real casualties.
Yeah, real casualties.
Why does anyone? Oh God, why does anyone care about that?
What
casualties in these movies?
They're not really dying.
Yeah, because they're not really dying, but they gotta go.
They barely even die in the comic books. Like, you pay attention to Joe Schmo with the white shirt walking by that just got hit with a meteor in the background. Like, you really care if he lived or died?
No. I'm talking about the heroes. They gotta go. Iron Man's gotta die.
Yeah, that's not happening.
I think it might, man.
War Machine being one of my favorite comic book characters in the Marvel universe.
Captain America's gonna die.
He's like the only guy that gets crippled. Like, he's the only one with lasting injuries. Really? You took out Rhodey? Come on, man.
No, don't forget that don't forget he died and then they brought him back.
Black Widow and Hawkeye should be
out there. Like,
no, it's gonna be Captain America. The story points to Captain America.
I was watching a clip that just released with Black Widow fighting the Black Order.
Oh God!
And I like to bitch about power levels, and Black Widow should not fight anyone. I was like, a Cap, yeah, but
the only people who should who should remain standing after this whole fight is said and done.
Spidey,
Hulk, not even Spidey. No, not even Spidey.
But Spidey would still live. Spidey would still live.
Dude, Thanos. Okay, so let's put it this way. Thanos is people. If we're gonna be realistic about this, Thanos is a freaking god. Okay,
we're gonna be realistic about comic books.
Realistic as in a comic sense, like comic book realism. Yeah. Like Thanos is a freaking god, okay? And he has the freaking gauntlets that basically shuts off existence, okay? Or wipes out half the people in the freaking universe. Yeah, the only people that should be standing are probably the Hulk, Thor, and probably maybe Scarlet Witch. No, Scarlet Witch. That's
Captain Marvel, though.
Oh, yeah. Cosmic powers, Captain Marvel. Those 4, maybe. Everyone else is like done.
But I think Richie A nailed it because Iron Man got that plot armor.
That is true. That is true.
His new armor is like Wakanda tech mixed with just extra.
Don't forget space. Don't forget space, okay? Because he has to bring in the other guys from space. He's the great unifier, man. The great unifier.
Look at how they look. Think about it, right? We watched Black Panther. We saw the tech there, and then we were like, "Whoa, Tony Stark doesn't have it." And next thing we see the trailer of Infinity War, and his thing just goes. Shh. I was like, man, you be watching Black Panther too, bro? Is that what it is?
I see how it is. It's like literally like that is cultural.
That was actually perfect.
It works in so many different levels. So many different levels.
Yeah, I know. Anyway, guys, we've come to the end of the show. Thank you for watching. And we've got to the part of the show where we talk about what we have on the channel and what we can expect next week. So, Mr. Warren Bowman, you want to kick it off? What do you have on your channel right now? What can we expect next week?
Got nothing new up right now, but hopefully next week I have some long-term reviews that I'm finishing up that I'm hoping to kind of get finished up this weekend and post up for you guys.
All right, cool.
Dig it.
Juan.
Yeah. So this last episode of Newegg Now, we had the developer, one of the developer leads from Spurios.
I saw some of that.
That was a really fun conversation, and I'm hoping we'll plan like a field trip because they detailed their whole VR-cade.
They've got a Creed VR game, boxing game. We play as Adonis Creed. I was like, I want to see that. I want to see,
dude, and especially because like I've spent tens of minutes with Sprint Vector, and like I leave that VR headset soaked. So I want to see what Creed does because that's going to kick my ass. Yeah. But I'm also stealing this from my co-host Trisha, where they have a VR arcade, and so we're going to start calling it the VR-cade. But we're going to try and go hook that up soon too. But I mean, just to see the interview, if you guys want to check that out, that's on the Newegg channel. I finally finished my long-term review of the Samsung Go Mic Mobile. This is a huge step for mobile content production. If you need to capture high quality audio, if you want a good wireless system, something that's not going to break the bank, I have a 17-minute review of my experiences using this, samples in windy conditions, studio samples in a soundproofed environment, and then also the differences between the lavalier and the handheld microphones that you compare with this. I am ridiculously impressed with what this little Mighty Mouse receiver is capable of. So you guys can check that out on my channel. And then, of course, every Monday morning, I've got my own tech cranky, self-produced, I'm just going to talk and ramble on about the news podcast, the Monday Morning Tech Chat Show. So I'll see you after the weekend, and we can talk about some more techie stuff.
Actually, someone did die. Quicksilver died.
Oh, you mean the guy that showed up from one movie? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, exactly. And the guy that shouldn't actually die.
But he dead, though. Is he dead, though? He dead, though.
He's dead.
But yeah, so I've got cool stuff.
Here's your death.
I've got cool stuff to watch. Quicksilver, but watch my stuff.
True. Thank you very much, Juan. For us, we have a couple of videos. We did our final take on the Nokia Steel HR. If you're looking for a smartwatch that maybe is a smartwatch, but it's more fitness, this is something you definitely take a look at. So go check it out. We have our review of the Huawei MateBook X Pro. I have to say, man, look, Huawei did an excellent thing in that laptop. It is thin, it is beautiful, and I can actually use it to work. I can render video at some decent time. So I was quite impressed with this.
I saw the review on that. It's actually, the video is really good, by the way, but the device is amazing.
Yeah, it is. It's one of those, because there's a bunch of people commented and said a bunch of tech reviewers are pushing this hard. Huawei must have paid us. No, they sent us the laptop, and literally it is good. I was impressed with that. Somebody did talk about it, said Huawei spying on you with the laptop, and besides, I just started laughing. I was like, you know, Microsoft has that. Right?
It's not even that. It's like the reason most camcorders or most cams come with a flip cover these days. Yeah, it's not because of Huawei, exactly. Not because of Huawei. It's because of the U.S. government. Project Prism. Go out and search it, and then tell me what you feel.
Yes, like I forgot about the NSA.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah, and then finally,
what?
NSA people, NSA.
Sure. And finally, we dropped our Ryzen 2700X 4K gaming build, and boy, AMD has another sweet winner again. This thing is fantastic. I did the build. I really love the build. I don't love the price of the GTX 1080 Ti that's in that build, because that's the one thing in the build that, you know. But I was able to connect it to the Samsung 65-inch TV, ran all the games in 4K. Doom ran at 181 frames per second.
Oh, God, that's beautiful.
So, and again, on that screen size as well. So it kicks ass. I mean, AMD has really done something where, and you've seen other people reviews, but go ahead and check out the build. So you know, in case you want to do something similar, you might not want to do that 1080 Ti, because even I myself, man, I'm thinking of removing it and setting it back.
That's just a single 1080.
Yeah, this is a single 1080 Ti. I mean, like, it ran games really well.
I played Fortnite. Don't just tease it. What did you spend on that 1080 Ti?
996.
Oh wow, that's not bad, dude.
Yeah, because that was a quick sale.
That's not bad, because right now you go out and 1080 Ti's, it's like 1500 is the worst I've seen for it right now.
And mind you, because
I'm seeing a lot of prices around 1112.
Yeah, no, 1112.
I built my PC right at the right time when I did.
Because the reason why is because I picked the one that didn't. Everybody offers RGB lighting, right? So I mean, this one has this lighting on the logo. I was like, that's enough for you guys. I can't afford. I can't afford flourish lighting for an extra $300.
I paid $899 for mine, but I have a 1080 Ti VR blah blah 5K. What the hell? It's the ROG edition Asus one.
Yeah,
but it's like boost clock is 1700 megahertz.
Yeah, it's pricey up there, but it's definitely. I mean, a Ti is definitely worth it if you're building something like this. The one thing I'll say, if you're thinking about a Ryzen processor, is that AMD uses the AM4 chipset, so this chip will work with your Ryzen from last year motherboard. It will work with your lowest common denominator motherboard. So if you bought a motherboard for $99, you can put this chip in it. Yeah, it won't have all the bells and whistles, but.
I wasn't a part of this live stream, but Newegg did an almost 2-hour conversation with JJ from ASUS and an AMD product rep, where they go through in detail some of the differences, and that was really exciting. Chipset is still backwards compatible. I mean, the socket is still compatible with newer pieces. There are some benefits, obviously, if you go with the newer motherboard, but the whole write-up and the whole discussion on 2700X is very compelling right now.
Yeah, it definitely is. So definitely go check that out. And coming forward, what we have next week, tomorrow, we have 2 live streams. One is on Onboard. We'll be doing our final wrap-up of the Marvel MCU universe, covering movies like Captain America Civil War, Doctor Strange, just kind of a chronological lead up into Infinity War. So come and join us on Onboard to check that out. And then later on tomorrow night on Booredatwork, Westworld discussions are back. So we'll be live streaming about 15 minutes after the show airs, but I'll have that up so you guys can see. So join us if you watch Westworld. The discussion should be fun, because more mayhem is going to continue in that. And then next week, I think Monday, most likely, we have our professional photographer test of the Huawei P20 Pro. Got my friend Marian, who's a professional photographer, take a look at it, and you'd be quite interested to see what he has to say about it. Lots of photos, lots and lots of photos. We're only sad because I had to use the phone for something, and he called me up. He was like, "Oh man, I wish I had it for this professional photo shoot." I was like, "Why did you tell me earlier?" Be great, but
like, you mean I could have showed up to the professional photo shoot? Like, no, with the phone.
But yeah, so that, and then I think we will have our final review of the Samsung TV coming up next week. So anyway, guys, thank you very much. This has been an interesting show. Covered a lot of topics, one very long one. Those of you listening on the podcast, we appreciate, because we went into some diatribe.
First 30 minutes, yeah.
But again, thank you
It's all
very much.
your fault, Sam.
Yeah, no, right?
What? Forget you. Forget yous. Forget yous.
And at this point, I want to say definitely check out all the channels. Mr. Warren Bowman at bw1.com. You can follow him on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. His YouTube channel is also bw1.com, and his website is bw1.com. And then Mr. Juan Carlos Bagnell, Some Gadget Guy. That is his internet name. Find him on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook. It is all Some Gadget Guy. He's also does a show on Newegg Thursday, 1 p.m. Eastern, with his fellow co-host Trisha Hirschberger. It's Newegg Now Live. I believe that's the name of the show. And you can check him out there and see all his awesome content. And finally, the man who is now fuzzy and out of focus, Black Iron _ Man, Sam. He is now put encryption into his video file.
He's
so
being deleted. delete.
I'm being deleted from existence right now. Little by little.
But
Let's see
yeah,
if I can make this work better. There we go. Yep.
So you can follow him on Twitter. It's Black Iron _ Man. And myself, it's Booredatwork, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. The website is also Booredatwork. Check out our content. Check out everyone's content. And yeah, Jonathan, hit me up on Twitter. Congratulations. And thank you, everyone. And always enjoy your entertainment.